Everybody, welcome to this edition of Coffee Time. I am your host, Byron. This is episode number 75. Alongside me via StreamYard is former Minnesota Wild player and AHL for them, EHL, all the minors for them. Patrick Cannone, who just recently retired, from what I understand, of
Yeah,
how many years?
yeah, it was a good run, just got finished playing. Now I'm on to the next phase of life, and beginning was a little different once the hockey season gets going, and you're not, you know, in the mix of things there. But it's been great, like a lot of family time. So it's been really enjoyable just to, just kind of relaxing throughout the winter here.
Now, I hate to bring this up because I know it's maybe a touchy subject for you. I don't know, but I saw that you only played 3 games with the Wild. Did that honestly kind of hurt you a bit with how many years you played? Because I saw your stats in the minors; you were pretty good. Well, what
Yeah,
was the deal there? Why do you think they didn't call you up as much?
no, I don't think with them. I don't think it really hurt me from a personal standpoint. I was just happy to get the opportunity with them. I'd say a couple of years prior to that, I might have had a little more frustration because I was doing really well in the minors and thought I deserved a call up. I was
Yeah,
with a
you
different.
did. I saw the stats. I saw the
Yeah,
stats.
I was with a different organization, so I definitely thought I deserved one, and it just happens that way. Things happen and you can't control that. So, when I signed with Minnesota and was in Iowa, I was just, very appreciative and thankful that I finally did get that call up and, it just kind of reassured all the hard work that I put into the game.
Now, your call up, your first game, did you have your family there? And who told you you were calling up? Was it the coach for the Wild or your coach for the minor league team in
So,
Wild?
yeah, no, interesting. Like we played an afternoon game in Iowa and, I actually didn't even have a good game. Like I didn't even play that well. And somebody in Minnesota got hurt. I think it was Eric Halla, like a minor injury, groin injury, I believe. And so after the game, I was in the lounge, like having a protein shake, and the GM of Iowa came in and told me like, "Hey Pat, just so like you're getting called out to Minnesota tonight. So try and get to Minnesota by tonight." And practice tomorrow and then go from there. So right then and there, it's just a whirlwind of emotions, right? So I was fortunate enough that my family was able to make it for the game in Minnesota. I believe it was 2 days later. My wife was there, and one of my best friends. So Minnesota was first class organization. They took care of the travel for my parents since it was such last minute, and took care of all that. And, my wife drove with me from Iowa to Minnesota since it wasn't that far. So she was there through the whole ride with me. So that was really cool. And yeah, it was just a really neat experience. Obviously there's so many emotions going through you at the time. And also you're trying to focus in on the task at hand of playing hockey and trying to stay there. So it was really cool and something I'll definitely cherish.
So I know you only had, unfortunately, 3 games. That was your career, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
did you learn anything out of those 3 games that you may have not learned in the minors, all those years in the minors?
I don't know if I learned anything that I didn't already know. I guess I just saw, you know, firsthand the the level of professionalism. The way that those guys approach the game. It's a little different in the minors. It's definitely super professional, but I feel like there's just a whole nother bar, in the NHL, and the guys in the team were amazing to me. Like they treated me great. They didn't make me, feel like I was less than them. And, in that aspect, I remember, I believe it was, I think it was morning skate before the first game. And, Mikko Koivu, the captain, who's a Minnesota Wild legend and NHL veteran and Finnish Olympian and just all the accolades. He was so first class. He came over and he he shook my hand and said, "Congratulations on your first game." I was 30 years old. I wasn't a boy. I was a man. So
Yeah.
just for somebody to go out of their way, that's probably knows I'm not going to be there for a while, just to make me feel at ease and just kind of give me that little appreciation, just went a long way with me, and kind of how I want to carry myself. You see how these guys carry themselves, and it kind of just resonates with you. That's probably something I took the most from that.
How tougher is the competition? I mean, like obviously it's tougher than the minors, but how for those that don't know, like how much more difficult is it to actually play in the NHL compared to the minors?
Yeah, it's a whole other animal. The compete level is so high. There's so much depth too, and no one takes shifts off. It's super competitive, super elite, and you definitely learn that in practice too. I had a practice before a first game, and it was day before a game practice, and it was intense. It was fast paced. It was high level. And I've been a part of intense practices before throughout my career, but this was just a whole nother level, and just the way those guys carry themselves. How they take care of themselves, and how they approach the game from that standpoint was it's something you try and take back with you when you do get sent to the minors. So I definitely learned a lot, and that week I was probably with the team and those 3 games, just how you carry yourself. So it was an unbelievable experience.
Did you also have any injury that could have barred you as well from not playing in the big times? Was there any injury too that may have stopped you that you may have had?
Um, no, not really. I was pretty healthy for the most part of my career. I mean, I had a shoulder surgery the year before I had shoulder surgery the summer before I signed with Minnesota. So I went to training camp that year, kind of with coming off that surgery. So I was a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of you know probably hockey speed and game speed, and things like that. So but nothing that really kept me back from a call up. Chicago, when I was with my time with the Wolves in Chicago, those were probably the years, or my last 2 years, where I thought I might have deserved a call up with St. Louis, and that never came. But I was healthy in those situations. So
Now, the Olympics, obviously, with the coronavirus still at tag, the NHL did the policy. They're not going to send any NHLers over there, which is sad because that's what mainly was, before
right,
for years it's been that. I'm not going to say Miracle on Ice in that year. Those were minor leaguers, but you get what I'm saying. You get the drill. This year it'll be minor leaguers again, basically. Now,
right.
I know you're freshly retired, but if you were given the opportunity to have gone over there and actually played for our country or your country, wherever you're from, I don't know where you're from exactly.
I'm from the U.S.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I'm American.
So there you go. Okay.
Yeah,
So probably say would you have, if you were offered, would you have gone to play for the country?
yeah. I think 100% I would have. I think that's just kind of a no-brainer. Everybody kind of. I think when you're a young hockey player, you dream of playing in the NHL, and you dream of all those things. And then I think the Olympics might be a close second. It's I have a buddy that I played in college with that was fortunate enough to make the team. He got asked to play for the Olympic team. I played with him in college. He plays over in Russia.
Mhm.
So it's really cool to see, those type of guys get that opportunity that they probably wouldn't have gotten if they were bringing NHL players. So, it's really neat to see. Even you see guys from other countries. I play with 3 guys that are on Team Canada, in Iowa and other places. I play with a couple guys that are on Switzerland. I played with and against some guys that are on Germany. So it's pretty cool to see them getting their chance. But yes, if that phone did ever ring, yes, I would probably be on the plane tomorrow or yesterday. Getting ready
Yeah,
to go.
you would
So,
have slowly got quickly out of retirement, wouldn't you?
yeah, I'd start stretching right now.
So basically, what's your mindset now that you're newly retired? I mean, do you still have that itch to play, honestly, as a former player? I know you spent I looked like from it was about 12 years, I'd say you played.
Yeah,
So 11, 12
roughly.
years. Do you still have that itch? I mean, what are you doing nowadays to take your mindset off playing hockey besides spending it with your wife?
I think that in the beginning of the hockey season, I had that itch still. Like when September was rolled around or late August and guys are leaving for training camp, you have that mindset because you're so used to doing that for all those years, right? So,
Mhm.
um, I think in the early part of the season, I was, kind of thinking, well, maybe I could still play or if I want to, and but that goes away quickly. You stay busy, with your family, with my daughter, and I have other things going on. I'm coaching here locally with the AAA Blue Jackets organization, and my wife is starting a business, so we're doing that. So I'm staying super busy, and it's been great, and it's kind of nice now. It's easier on the body too. I don't have to, the stresses of staying healthy and staying in shape and doing all that. So it's kind of nice just you know being away from that, but it's also great being a fan and watching on TV every night and seeing your friends and guys you play with playing and rooting them on.
Did you play with any guys that are currently in the NHL now? Do you still talk to any of them?
Yeah, I mean, I play with a lot of guys that are currently playing in the NHL. Some I'm very close with. Some, don't talk to as much, but if I did it would speak to them, it's like, we pick up right where we left off, right? Chris Wyman on Montreal Canadiens is a really good buddy of mine. We went to college together. He was in my wedding, so he's somebody I talk to on a regular basis. So you definitely keep those relationships as the years go on. So you definitely don't lose touch with those kind of guys.
No, I believe that, and it's glad you came. You still have that you
Yeah.
have relationships. Because say, I mean, you ever want to, you know, establish coaching somewhere like pro, if you want to go up, like because you like you said, you're coaching now in the minors, right? You're coaching for the
Well,
Blue
it's
Jackets
it's
AAA?
it's a triple A, so it's younger
Right,
kids, but
right.
their aspirations are to
To
make it to
go, yeah,
juniors and then to
right.
play D1 and to move on from there. So, but yes, like it's definitely good to keep those contacts and all that. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know there you. Sorry. All right, perfect. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you are good. No, like I was saying, it's just good to kind of keep those relationships, and you never know what things might change one day, and you want to coach at a higher level, but for now, I'm super happy where I'm at, and things couldn't be better.
Now, do you have any stories that you remember from your minor league career, like any championships, all-star games, etc., that you're very proud of that you want to share?
Um, well, two things, I guess. After my senior year of college, I signed with the Ottawa Senators, right, and they sent me to Binghamton, which is their AHL team.
Mhm.
To finish the regular season, and then they were making a playoff push at the time. So I went to Binghamton and I played my first pro game in Rochester. And I'm originally from New York, Long Island. So my parents were there for the game, and I was actually fortunate enough to score and have a couple points in my first pro game. So that was really cool and really special. And then they ended up winning the championship for the AHL, the Calder Cup, and I was there for the whole run. I didn't play in the playoffs because they got guys down from the NHL, but I was there firsthand for the whole run and to see what it was like to win a championship at the pro level. And then I'd say I don't know what number year pro is it, but it was in Chicago. I was selected for the AllStar team, in the AHL, and that was a big honor. And it's kind of funny. Like it was probably the best weekend of hockey I ever played. the skills competition, I ended up like winning the accuracy shooting, and then the next night in the AllStar game, I probably played the best hockey I ever played. And I'm just, it's the AllStar game. Guys are just
Right.
kind of messing around and having fun out there, and I
Right.
was too. But for some reason, the puck just kept up, going in for me, and I ended up winning MVP. So that was a really cool weekend and cool moment for me to, share with family and friends, and it was really a really fun weekend, and definitely something that will stick in my in the memories for me up there up top.
So basically, the what you're telling me, I don't know because I don't get to watch the minors that much because it's not really on TV.
Yeah.
But basically, their All Star Week is just like the NHL, same concept, same divided. The game is divided into I guess leagues or whatever, the East, West, and all that. And then you have your skills competition.
Yeah, the way they did it the minors they're always changing things year by year. The year I was in it, where it went by division, and it was a 3-on-3 tournament. So you had the Central Division, which I was on. You had the West, and then you had the East, and then I believe you had I don't know what the other one was, but it was basically a 2-day weekend. Friday was skills competition and all the things leading up to that. So that was really cool. And then Saturday was the actual game, and it was a 3-on-3 tournament. So you'd play 3-on-3. I think it was a total of maybe a half hour each game. 3 10-minute periods, I want to say. And then you'd play your game, and then you'd get off, and then other two teams would play, and then you go back out and play. So, it was a cool setup, and 3-on-3 was a lot of fun for us as the players, and the fans seemed to love it too. So it was really cool.
Now, did you guys during the season have as many games as an NHL season? Or did you guys have lesser in a season than NHL?
I think it's a little less. I'm not sure if it's changed or not. We would play 76 games, I believe, and I believe the NHL plays 82. So it's a little less, but the AHL does it so funky now. Like the teams in the West out in California will play about 64 games, and the teams in the Central and East will play 76. And it won't go by points; it will go by winning percentage because not everybody's playing the same amount of games, right? So it's a little different. I don't necessarily don't like it. I think every team in a professional league should play the same amount of games. So I think it's a little ridiculous, but that's just the way they do it. And it's different, but I'm not really a big fan of it. I feel like it should be an even playing field. Everybody play 76 games or 64 games, and you kind of base everything else off that, and you go by points, not win percentage.
So, two-part question now. I think your sport is just as physical, if not more, than football. What is first part of the question is what is your take on fighting in the game? Does it make it better? And two, how many fights did you take apart in your career?
So I definitely was not a fighter. I was more of a skilled guy. But that does not mean I don't think fighting should be in the game. I think fighting plays a huge part in the game, and I think it needs to stay in the game. Like I love it. I think you need some tough guys on your team. I think it's it's a great way for momentum to shift in games, to create energy for teams. The fans obviously love it. I think it's really important and something that's been around since hockey, first came about, right? So I think fighting needs to stay in the game. I think it's a big part of it. As for fights for myself, I've been in a bunch of scrums. I might have one fight to my name, but it wasn't much of one, and I got the 5 minutes for fighting. Excuse me, but it wasn't much of a fight. It was a big scuffle. We had our gloves off, and the refs kind of jumped in quickly, thank God, because the guy was much, much bigger than me. But I did get the Gordie Howe hat trick that game, so that was important. It was a goal, an assist, and then I got my so-called fight. So that's,
Now, what about penalties? Did you spend your time in the penalty box a lot?
No, not so much. I would try to keep my name on the score sheet, not so much the penalty sheet. So, there'd be some games where I'd, obviously definitely get a couple here or there, but no, I was definitely trying to put the puck in the net. That was my focus.
So, out of your career, is there, since you spent most of it in the minors, is there one specific goal that you remember most that was like, oh yeah, this is my moment in either league you went. This is my main moment of my career. Is there that one goal that stands out?
I don't know if it's necessarily just one goal. There was a couple goals that stand out more than others to me just because of the magnitude of them. A couple OT winners. I had two OT winners in 1 year, and they both completed a hat trick for me in that game. So like those are pretty big in my mind. Just kind of helping your team win in that aspect. And then there was one game I had an OT winner in Chicago where I broke my rib probably halfway through the third period, and it was killing me. And I got hit against the boards pretty hard by a guy named Greg Zan, and he crunched me really good. I didn't see him coming, and I knew something was wrong. I didn't feel right, but I battled through the rest of the game, and the game ended up going to overtime, and Joel Edmondson gave me a nice breakaway pass. Joel plays for the Montreal Canadiens. He won a Stanley Cup with St. Louis Blues, and he gave me a really nice feed for a breakaway. And I was able to muster up enough strength to get a decent shot on net, and it went in. And then after the game, I got an X-ray, and I had a broken rib, and I was out, for 4 or 5 weeks. But so that one kind of sticks out just because I gutted out the rest of the game, and I was able to actually score the game winner. So that one was really cool for me. Just kind of just being mentally tough, I guess. I didn't take myself out of the game. I wanted to finish the game. I knew something was wrong, but I gutted it out, and I was fortunate enough to score the game winner. So that one was really cool for me.
Now, did you have any, by chance, did you have any outside games? I know NHL does quite a bit for their New Year's, and they've done a couple others after that during the season. Did you have it? Did you have any chance at all to play outside, or was it all just indoors for the minor leagues?
No, it's. I mean, the minor leagues does put on some outside games. They definitely do that. They've done it in the past. Sorry.
They do that.
Yeah, they did it. I remember 1 year they did one in Syracuse for Syracuse and Binghamton. I think the East Coast actually just did one this year for Toledo Walleye. They did their baseball field. So they do it, not to the magnitude of the NHL, but they definitely do it. And I'm kind of bitter about it actually, because I've never been a part of an outdoor game, and it's obviously such a cool experience, and I'm so jealous of the guys that have, because I never got to experience that. So that's something I'm pretty bitter about, actually.
I don't blame you. I'm sure you would love to play out in that cold, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't mind playing.
Freeze your balls off.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know in Hockey Day in Minnesota, they just did one in Mankato, and it was like, I guess the temperature was ridiculous. It was like in the minuses, and they were still out there playing, and it looked brutal. But I would have still done it. It looks cool. It's a once in a lifetime thing, so it looks neat. But I'm bitter about it. That's for sure.
So do you still follow the sport to this day? Do you follow everything about the game today? Do you still watch it?
Yeah, I do. I feel like you never lose that. I thought I wouldn't, but now that I'm out of the game, in terms of playing, I actually probably watch it more than when I was playing, to be honest. If there's a game on, it's always on the TV. Just kind of, and a lot of guys you either played with or played against, and
right.
Here in Columbus, it's a small hockey community here, right? So there's a couple kids on, that I skate with, that I did skate with when I played here in Columbus, that played in the NHL, that you kind of watch and track and see how they're doing. So I'm definitely watching as a fan now. So it's a different kind of watching. Usually when you're playing, you're watching, you're not hoping for somebody to get hurt, but you're hoping you get an opportunity for a call up, so it's a little different now.
So then I know it's early, but who you got for your Stanley Cup predictions?
I think the Stanley Cup is going to come out of the East this year. I think the East is just ferocious.
Do you
You
think the
have
Lightning might repeat? The
I don't
Bolts.
know. They they're going to come close, but I think it's going to come out of the South. I think it's either going to be Florida Panthers, Tampa, or Carolina. They're three powerhouses, and they're going. If they can stay healthy, those teams, I think one of those three will win. And then I think coming out of the East, I think you'll probably get Colorado or Vegas will go on to the finals and match up with either one of those three teams. And then if you have a gun to my head and I have to pick, I think I'm picking Florida.
What about your team, the Wild? What do they need to do? Because I know
I think,
they've been off and on. I know that they've been off and on. They can't decide what they want to do.
yeah, they've had a great year. They look really good. They've been really solid all year. I just don't know if they have the goaltending down the stretch. I think that comes it's a big part in the playoffs, and I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't know. I just think with Florida, they're just so deep, and they have two really good goaltenders in Bobrovsky and Knight. And Bobrovsky's kind of been off his game the past couple of years, but he's really found it this year. And you need two guys to rely on at goaltending in the playoffs, and I think that if they can stay healthy, I think they're the team to beat.
Now, how would you have fared in the bubble? How do you think you would have fared? I know it had to be weird for those players. It had to feel like practice for them, but and being confined. How weird would that have felt for you if you had a chance to play in the bubble when they had the bubble?
Yeah, I don't know. I've had obviously buddies that were there, and they shared their experiences and told me all about it. For some, I want to say I'd be fine. Just kind of with all the downtime and hanging out with the boys and all that. But I feel like after I don't know maybe a week or two, it'd start taking a toll on you. Just kind of eating at the same places all the time because I know that's what it was like, and just kind of doing the same stuff all the time, whether it's golf simulation or video games or just whatever. But I think it would have definitely worn on me. And if I had a family too, it would have been way tougher. I think it's different if you're either a single guy or if you're somebody with a family and kids. I think that kind of plays a factor in it too. So if I had my family and my daughter and I was away from my wife, I think it'd be a lot tougher. But if I was a single dude, I think that it would have probably just been a little more fun, and I would have enjoyed it a bit.
Yeah, it was amazing how they arranged all that because I mean, especially up there where everything was so confined, especially in Canada, is still blocked off to this day. You don't really see much, even in the arenas. Uh, I'm surprised U.S. teams are still allowed to go there. I know they're in lockdown, so I don't know how that's
Yeah,
there. It's
yeah.
isn't it?
Canada's kind of a mess right now in terms
It
of
is. It is.
all their policies and stuff with COVID. I know that there's a lot of unhappy people with their prime minister.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot going on there, and I think it's a shame they can't get fans in the building. I think that's a little ridiculous. I think we're at a point where everybody can make their own decisions if they want to go to a hockey game or not. I don't think that should be taken away from them. But yeah, so that's different. But back to the bubble, like I had a buddy who was playing on the Hawks when he was in the bubble, and he was on. They were a lower seed in the bubble, so they were in Edmonton, and so the higher seeds stayed at like the nicer hotels,
Mhm.
the nice hotel, and then the lower seeds were at like a shittier hotel. So like their experience was way worse in terms of that because they were, not the fancier kind of place. So yeah, it's just different to see. And then you had one bubble, I believe, in Edmonton, and the other one was in Toronto, I believe. And Toronto's a lot nicer of a city than Edmonton for a lot of most people would agree with. So just kind of that kind of factors into I feel like your sanity too.
Now, I hate to bring this up because this is what I just think too. I know it's not with all referees, but do you believe there's corruption in the game with some of the refs?
What do you
Either
mean?
minor, pro, like where they bet on games and then where they purposely fix the games. Do you
Kind of
think
like
do you
that
think that
basketball
happens?
referee.
Yeah. Do you think that happens?
I don't think it happens in hockey. I think that um, I think hockey holds itself to a high standard in terms of things like that. So I mean, I haven't heard anything like that, but I choose to believe that that does not happen in hockey. I think that um, the refs are, they're the best of the best in that sport. So I think they hold themselves to a high standard and they're very professional. So yeah, I don't think there's an issue with that.
Now, where you played where you played, how were the fan bases? Did you enjoy the fan bases when you played?
In the minors, yeah, I did. So I'll run through all the places I played and their kind of fan bases. So I started in Binghamton, New York, and it's a smaller town, obviously, and
Ottawa, right? Like you said,
yeah,
minor
yeah,
league.
but yeah, Binghamton's in upstate New York, but they're with Ottawa, and their arena is really small, but if it's packed, it's really loud and it's a really fun atmosphere, and they have very passionate fans. So like I said, when I was there for that playoff run and those playoff games, like it was sold out every night. It was so much fun. It was so loud. It was just a really cool experience. So their fans were awesome. I was really fortunate to play in those types of places where the fans were good. My next stop was Chicago with the Wolves, and I was there for 3 years. And hands down, that was probably my favorite place to play. The way the professionalism with that organization was just bar none in terms of minor league hockey. You basically treated like an NHL team. And their fans were phenomenal. They were the most passionate, caring fans. I was fortunate enough to have a good relationship with the fans, and they were so good. They treated me great, and they're people I won't forget throughout my career through my career there. And then last was in Iowa, where another small town in Des Moines, but they were just as passionate as everyone else. They came out and supported us even when we weren't very good at times. And then when we did get better throughout my last couple of years there, they were, the arena was sold out all the time and it was just a fun place to play. So, like I said, I was fortunate enough to be in those types of cool spots. And then I went over to Europe. I played in Germany for a couple of years. And then that's
How was
something,
that? Was that
yeah,
different?
yeah, hockey was really good. I didn't know what to expect going over, so I was really really surprised at how good the hockey was. It was elite. But the fan base is out of control. It's like a soccer game. Like they're chanting and singing
That's
the
their
whole
only
game.
sport, I believe. That's their main sport up
Well,
there.
no, soccer is pretty big in Germany.
Oh,
Soccer's huge.
that's true too. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like that's their number one. That's what they hang their hat on. Like their top league in Germany. They're in soccer. Bayern Munich's their team, right?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
the powerhouse.
Can't forget about that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, but hockey's very close second, right? So, but their fans are so cool and they just cheer and sing the whole games, and they'll let you know when they're not happy. Like my second year, the team I was on, we weren't very good, and they would be singing in German like the whole third period. And I'd look over to my German buddy, I'd be like, "Hey, what are they saying?" And he looks at me and he's like, "They're telling us we fucking suck and that we need to fire our coach and GM." And I was like, "Holy shit!" Like that's like. And then sure enough, a couple weeks later, our GM got fired. And. So it was a cool
It was
experience.
brutal over there, huh?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely different for sure. Like the fans they like their German beers, and they really let you know they let you know with their honesty. That's for sure.
um, so I saw that you went undrafted. Did you know you were going to be undrafted, or did you have at least a notification or something to know that you could have been drafted? How'd that process go about coming out of college or and all that you were at? Like what went through that process?
Yeah, so I was actually kind of like a late bloomer, I guess you'd say, in terms of hockey. Like I didn't start getting really good until I was probably 18, 19, and the draft's kind of already gone and passed, right? So, my main focus was playing juniors. I want to go play D1. I want to earn a scholarship, and then whatever else happens from there is gravy, right? Like, that's just icing on the cake. So, I had a really good year at juniors in the USHL, which is one of the top leagues in North America for kids that want to go play Division I college hockey.
Right.
And then from there, I was fortunate enough to get a full scholarship to Miami University, which is in Oxford, Ohio. Right, it's like 45 minutes from
Same
Cincinnati.
school as Ben Roethlisberger went to.
Exactly. Yep. Boy Ben, who just retired.
Yep.
Yeah. So Wally Zerbiak, he's a old basketball player.
Yep.
Remember Wally's World when he took him to the Sweet 16?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So So no, I my time there in Oxford was probably the best 4 years of my life. And I guess a lot of people say that about college, but I was part of some really good teams at Miami, and then I was obviously doing well, and senior year rolls around, and the team, we were a top team in the nation, like we were throughout my 4 years there, and I had an agent at the time, or an advisor, I guess you'd say, and NHL's team started talking about signing me free agent wise, right? So they obviously went through the channels of my agent, and then after my senior year, it came down to two teams that were showed the most interest. I think it was definitely it was Ottawa, and the other team was Phoenix. So I did my research on what I thought was the best opportunity I'd get, and the most money and all that, and it came down to Ottawa. But I wasn't even thinking about being drafted just because I was a late bloomer. My goal was more get to college, and then from there just sign as a free agent out of college, and do the pro ranks through that, which is becoming more of an avenue for kids. They're that kids that don't get drafted, like it's not even close to being over. Like there's so many other ways you can make it. So like you don't need to stress about the draft as much.
So as you said, you're coaching young kids, obviously, like you said.
Yeah.
What do you tell them, and how do you want them to go about the possibly making it to call it high school, college, or pro level? What do you tell them in the process if they want to go that far?
Yeah, it's actually so like that's kind of why I like coaching the younger kids, because I feel like I can relate to them pretty well, because I was actually in their shoes,
Yeah,
right?
you were
Like
in
I
the
was,
street. Yep.
yeah, like I was, the same type of situation. Some of these kids are going to be late bloomers. Some are, ahead of the curve. Some are talking to colleges already. Some aren't. So, I relate to the path that they're going through, and the journey they're taking, and you know, my goal is just to kind of help them develop enough so that they can take their game to the next junior level and then prepare for college, and just kind of help them along that, hockey journey, I guess you'd say. And I'm fortunate enough to the kids I do work with, like they love hockey, like they want to play at NHL, they want to get better. So it just makes, my job as coaching them and helping them just that much easier.
Now I don't know what it is in hockey, but I know baseball players from what I've had on, and some football players I've also had on. Uh, they have a pregame regimen that they do before a game. Did you have
Yeah.
that as a player? What was your regimen before a game?
Yeah, I'm probably pretty similar to some of the ball players you had on. I was superstitious in the fact where I had a routine and I tried sticking to it as best as I could, every game. And it's hard too when you're playing so many games to like go through all those steps. You know what I mean? It's mentally draining, but you just kind of have to hit that light switch in your head and just kind of do it. And then mine was, it was just kind of just like stupid stuff, like the way I'd stretch, I would just, go through it every night the same. And then, I'd always probably tie my right skate before my left. I would tie my skates before putting my hockey pants on, and then I'd put my hockey pants on, and like I made sure I'd stand up before I put my hockey pants on, like just little stupid stuff like that. I would always need to put my gloves in the glove dryer like 5 minutes before we went out for warm up, so they were just the proper like crispiness, on my hands. In my earlier years, I would play soccer before the games during warm up. They call it two touch, and a lot of players play it just to kind of get the blood flowing and get your feet going. In my early years, I played that all the time, and it was the best. And then as I got older, I focused more on stretching and making sure I was loose enough where I wouldn't pull a grind. So just things like that, and it's like I said, it's a process, but it's good to that's the way you kind of mentally prepare yourself as well.
Now, a lot of people, including myself, I didn't play, but I did have influences growing up. Did you have any influences growing up that got you into wanting to play the game of hockey?
You know what? I started playing hockey because a friend of our family kind of got me into it, and it was roller hockey. A guy named Nicky Cicerini, and he kind of got me into my foot in the door with hockey, and I was really young. And then, I fell in love with it right from there. I'd say my grandfather was a huge influence on me in terms of, my hockey past. He loved the Islanders. He was a big Islander fan, especially in the 80s when they were, winning all those cups, the 4 years in a row, 80 to 84, when they won those cups.
Yeah.
And Clark Gillies was a part of the team who just passed away recently. And, my grandfather was a big influence in that. He'd always watch games with me. He would shoot pucks with me in the driveway. He was always at my games, throughout my, youth career. And then, as I got older into college, he'd still come. So he was a big part of it. My parents were obviously a huge part of it. They pushed me, from a young age up until I was older, right? And, growing up in Long Island, Long Island, New York, there wasn't many guys playing in the NHL at that time, but, there's two that, made it from Long Island, and they probably set the bar for, us younger kids where we kind of looked up to them. And they're guys like Chris Higgins and Mike Kamasarek, they were the best in Long Island at the time, and everybody looked up to them, all the young hockey players. So we kind of tried to mimic, the path they took, and all that hard work they put into it.
So now I got to ask you, because hockey and baseball, I know, growing up is especially travel ball and all that. It's very expensive to play. It's very expensive to play. What do you think? Do you think that's why nobody, like, unless you're rich and you got that kind of money to spend and those kind of for that kind of travel ball and all that for your sport and baseball like that? Do you think that's why a lot of people don't really play hockey or baseball? They go to basketball and football because it's easier. There's not much money to spend, because all you really have to spend for
like a ball.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Sneakers,
that's it. Yeah.
I think it definitely plays a part in it, right? Like I think that, like I think it could play a big part in it. If you can't financially, do it, it might be tough. Especially if the kid's young, I'm sorry, you can't play this anymore. I think that happens. I think that happens too often. And I know a lot of players have, put up foundations to try and, help kids who can't afford to play hockey, with equipment or travel fees or what that. So I think that's a great thing that, players in the NHL are starting to implement. I don't know what they're doing in baseball for that. I would assume it's probably something similar. But there was a time when I was playing in high school, and I was playing travel, and my parents just couldn't afford another year of travel. So I had to stop. I stopped my sophomore year of high school. I stopped playing.
You went through it. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, my sophomore year of high school, my parents couldn't do it, so I stopped playing travel hockey, and I was really good. and they're just like, Pat, you can't, like, you can play for the high school team, and high school hockey in Long Island sucked. So it was nothing like, travel, but they just couldn't do it. And then, I pleaded with them the year after to try and find a way to make it happen. And I was thankful that they did. But it could be such a strain on families financially, which is a shame. But I definitely think it does play a factor in, kids picking up other sports and stuff. But I think our game has come a long way in trying to help, kids who can't afford it to find ways to help them, whether it's gear or money for travel or whatever it is. So I think they're making progress, but there's still a long way to go.
Now, football and basketball are mainly everybody that's the sports that mainly the two that everybody's talking about because they know how to market their players.
Yeah.
NBA and NFL. Why do you think the NHL and MLB have that issue where it seems like they can't market their players well to get their sport out there? What do you think the issue is? Why they don't want to market their players like the NFL and NBA does, why getting their stars out there? Because NHL, you have stars, you have plenty of stars, and same with
Yeah.
MLB. All over the place, you have stars, but they're not getting marketed like NFL and
Yeah,
NBA.
they're not like household
Right,
names. Like
right,
they're not like, Connor. Some people probably have no idea
right.
who Connor McDavid is.
You're
He's
right.
obviously so. I don't know. I don't know if it has something to do with the market, because they don't have that issue in Canada because everybody knows who the top players in Canada are and who the superstars are.
Right.
Um, ESPN just finally got the rights back for the NHL this year.
Yeah. Yep.
Obviously they weren't with ESPN for a while, so I don't think that they were doing a good enough job of promoting hockey. I think they're doing a better job now, the ESPN, but I still think they could do more. You go to Canada and you turn on ESPN, TSN, and all it is hockey. They don't baseball and basketball, like that's like, the fourth, fifth highlights they show. Like it's hockey right away. And I get that because it is Canada and that's their sport. Like baseball is our sport here and football or whatever. But I do think they need to do a better job. I don't know why it's not marketed the way other sports are. But I do think you do have enough good superstars and enough, even American kids that are big enough names that you could, market around to build the game essentially. Look at when Gretzky got traded to LA back in the day. Like he basically started youth hockey in LA. The kids wanted to play hockey because of Wayne Gretzky.
Right.
So like, now LA is a pretty good youth spot for young hockey players. So it's kind of cool to see that, but I definitely do think they need to still keep going in, that marketing aspect.
Now, I know you haven't had any opportunities yet since you're still newly to coaching, but if you say got an offer to coach in the NHL, what would your ideal destination be, and who would you want to coach for?
I think I'd want to coach for either the team of the city I'm living in, right? Because it's that would be easy. So either Columbus or I'd say probably the New York Rangers would be, a close second. Like I grew up an Islander fan, but for some reason I always loved the Rangers. I just think that whole Madison Square Garden, I got to play one of my NHL games at Madison Square Garden in front of it. Yeah, in front of family and friends, like growing up in New York. And so like that was pretty amazing. But I think one of those markets, or maybe even one of those original franchises markets, a Boston or Detroit or Montreal or Rangers, Chicago. Like those would be really cool markets. And I'd probably do it. I think if I ever got that opportunity, I'd probably jump on that for sure.
What about broadcasting? Ever thought about that? Maybe.
You know what? I haven't. I don't know. I just never really gotten down that path. but it's something I'd be open to. I think it's pretty cool, and I think I'd be decent at it. I think I have a face for radio too, so I could do radio.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. There you go. There you go. You gotta start somewhere, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So a couple more questions before I let you go.
Yeah.
Now, since we got the AllStar game coming up soon, and it's almost the halfway point. God, it seems hard to believe because the season felt like it just started already.
I know, it's amazing how it flies.
Exactly. What is it? Is it 16 teams that make the playoffs, or is it 14?
I believe it's 16. I think it's 8 in each conference. So you'll have three from each division, and then you'll have 2 wild card spots to round out your 8. And then that's like that for both conferences.
Perfect. So that leads me to the first question I was going to ask you. Out of all the 16 teams, who do you think they're going to be? Who do you think the division leaders are going to be? And who do you think the wild cards are going to be?
Well, let's see. I'm gonna, off the top of my head, I have to look at this. I can't picture the standings, so I have my phone here. So I think that the top teams in the East will be
like
Tampa,
you said, Tampa,
Florida,
and
Carolina.
Okay, yeah, that's 3.
Yeah, and then you have Pittsburgh, who's really hot right now since getting healthy. The Rangers are having a really good year, so they're right there. And then you have Toronto with all their superstars. Washington with Ovechkin, and they're always, Ovechkin, Oshie, and Backstrom, and those guys are always in the mix. And then Boston rounds out your top 8. So I think the wild card will probably be, I want to say, the 2 wild card spots will either be between Toronto, Washington, and Boston, I'd say, in the Eastern Conference. And then those other teams will round out the top 6. And then as we look at the West here, you have Colorado in first. They'll probably be in the top 2. You have Nashville, St. Louis, Minnie, Vegas, Anaheim, LA, and Calgary.
That is more open in the East, I'd say.
It's way more open. Those teams, like I'd say 11 through 8 are like one.
Yeah. One like games, yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty even there. So who knows? That's a crapshoot. But I think that Calgary will end up getting in. They're like 8 or 9 right now. They're starting to come into form right now. I just watched them play against Columbus the other night, and they just pounded them. Like, they are a heavy team, and they're going well right now. And then I think Dallas will sneak in. I think they have enough veteran leadership where they'll be able to get into the playoffs and then try and create a run. LA and Anaheim are in it right now, but I think one of them at some point will start drifting off. But we'll see as the season progresses here. That's my analysis right there. How was that? Was that good?
Perfect. I got to get you started for somewhere. There's your analysis there. You see, you're one step closer to being a broadcaster. There you
go. Not bad.
So now, do you see LA? I got to ask you this because I've seen this throughout the years too. Do you see LA rebuilding? Because the Kings haven't gone nowhere in the last few years. The players are old, and Kopitar, Quick, those guys. Do you see them going into rebuild? Do you see them trading away those players this year or next year?
Yeah, I think they're close to it. I think they've kind of gone through it too the past couple of years. They've kind of been at the lower end of the conference, and I think they've begin to rebuild. And yeah, like, those guys aren't getting younger, like Kopitar, Dustin Brown, Drew Doughty, Quick, those kind of core guys that have been there for a while.
Yeah, they're not getting any younger.
Yeah, they're really not. So I mean, but they're all having good years this year because they're in the mix right now. So it depends on how I feel like this season ends up for them, if they're able to get in the playoffs or not. I feel like if they don't get in the playoffs, then you might see some big changes there, with some things. But they're probably due for some big changes coming up in the future. But I'll be curious to see how they fare as we come down the stretch here, and the season comes down to the end and the grind.
And lastly is what I know you didn't play in NHL for these two, but you played for their organization, Ottawa and the Blackhawks. Ottawa has been through shambles. I don't know. You had a player with bullying there and all that. They've just been in shambles. That's a whole nother thing. And then you got also Chicago, who you played with.
I was actually, when I was with the Wolves at the time, the Chicago Wolves, their affiliate was actually the Blues.
Oh, really?
Interestingly enough, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so then Blues.
Not many people do know that. A lot of people would think that, you know, if the AHL team's in Chicago, that the NHL team would be too, right?
Well, it was. Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
They must have switched over, I guess, because it was the Chicago.
But I could answer your question to Chicago. I don't know where we're going with that, like asking how
they just LA with the old players. Do you see a rebuild as well?
Yeah, I do. I think that I don't know. It's tough to say. Kane and Taves are kind of similar to Kopitar and Brown, where they're not getting any younger. Kane's still producing at a high level. Taves not so much, but even though he's still the core guy there, but they need so many other pieces. I feel like I think that, you know, they need to add some more, you know, depth guys up front and, you know, a couple more in the back end. But and then as for Ottawa, I don't know much there. They always say they're not in a rebuild, but I feel like they are. Their goaltending needs to get figured out. Yeah, I don't think Matt Murray's been obviously as good as he was in Pittsburgh. So they got to figure that position out. But I do like their captain in Brady Tkachuk. I think
I watched their daddy growing up. Both of his kids, I think, are going to be way better than him.
Yeah, they're absolute studs in the NHL, and I think that he's a great choice for captain because he kind of embarks on what a captain's all about, right? He plays hard, he's physical, he's skilled, he's, you know, doesn't shy away from things. So I think they're on a good path in terms of leadership there. It's just a matter of getting the proper pieces around them. So, you know, we'll see in due time.
Exactly. Well, I do thank you for your time. I had a blast. I hope you did as well.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much.
I'll send you the episode, and so you can post it.
Yeah.
Also, I will keep in contact with you as well throughout the season. See if your predictions come true.
Yeah, let's see how they shake out. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It was fun. I had a blast. I'll stay in contact with you. It was fun. You stay safe and have a good night, all right?
All right. Thank you. You too. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Have a good night.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Former NHL player Patrick Cannone played for the Wild. Very great conversation. Got into picks, etc. Must see. Until then, stay safe. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll have former UFC fighter Ian McCall on. So enjoy that too. Till then, talk tomorrow. Good night.
How'd you even know where your computer was?
I looked.
I'm sorry. I didn't expect you to get the door. I thought the two women were sitting right here. They could answer the door for me.
How did that go? How did that go?
Well, he's the one that had to get up, so.
You don't stop doing fries at me. It's pretty goodness gracious.